The first thing you should know is, I never expected my chickens to kick off an all-out war with the HOA. At sunrise, standing barefoot in the dirt out behind my old barn, cradling a squawking Rhode Island red like it was a gold trophy, I heard those police sirens slice right through the morning fog. 2 officers stepped out, hands on their belts, while Karen herself was screeching from behind, claiming my chickens were a biological threat to her community. Yeah, that happened. And for a split second, all I could do was marvel at the pure insanity, because not only were my chickens perfectly legal, but Karen's HOA had about as much authority here as a lemonade stand in Times Square. She was trying to regulate livestock on my 200-acre farm like she owned half the county. I lifted that chicken to eye level, smiling at the officers. Before you write anything down, just so we're clear, she's got zero jurisdiction out here. The bird flapped its wings, almost like it agreed. Karen turned red enough to match those feathers. The officers froze. Even they could tell something didn't add up. But before anybody could get a word in, Karen stomped forward in those blinding neon slippers, barking that she was the HOA enforcement supervisor. Never mind, she'd been kicked off every committee for bullying folks. I just had to ask how she'd even got past my locked gate, but she pointed at her golf cart, parked sideways in the gravel, like it was some kind of emergency response vehicle, hissing that she could access any property affecting the community ecosystem. That's probably a line she stole from HGTV. She'd written up her own violations on hot pink sticky notes, slapping them on everything. My roosters, tone too aggressive. My chicken coop, not HOA beige. Even suspicious chicken eyes. One officer snorted, caught himself, then cleared his throat as Karen demanded I be arrested for maintaining livestock in a residential zone. Even though the only thing residential around here is her imagination. I invited the officers to take a stroll past the chicken pens, out where the sun was pouring gold across my fields, the windmill was creaking, and cattle grazed so peacefully it almost made you forget Karen existed. Karen trailed us, clutching her binder like a weapon, muttering about how she always wins. "Want to see my deed?" I asked. The older officer nodded, so I handed him the laminated copy, marked with every line, every easement, and most importantly, where HOA power stopped almost 2 miles away. I watched Karen's face drain of color, but she doubled down, insisting her expansion plan included my land. She could barely pronounce the word annexation, and produced nothing but a folded-up lawn care brochure as her evidence. My rooster Elvis strutted out and let loose a crow, so loud it sent Karen stumbling into a feed bucket, toppling into the straw like a cartoon villain, while those officers nearly lost it trying not to laugh. "Look, this isn't even the first time," I explained. "She once left a violation on my tractor for improper color scheme. Then she tried reporting my scarecrow as an unauthorized seasonal decoration. But today, she called the cops, so she's not backing down." The younger cop asked Karen if she lived here, paid dues, or had legal authority. She had nothing, but claimed she was protecting community values, right as Elvis crowed again, just to make his point. I calmly explained, this is a working farm, county registered, fully legal, not under any HOA. The older cop finally had enough. He told Karen she was trespassing, needed to leave, or face consequences she wouldn't like. She sputtered, picking straw out of her hair, and jabbed a finger at me, swearing it wasn't over, promising to bring the whole HOA board next time, ranting about suburban harmony. She tried to leave in her golf cart, but the battery was dead from trying to ram my gate earlier. The cops offered to call a tow, but by then, I was already back with my hens, telling my Rhode Island red, "Looks like it's going to be a long day, girl." Because I knew, deep down, a storm was coming, the kind only someone with too much time and too little sense can whip up. Next morning, the farm was wrapped in that rare, heavy silence you get after a tornado passes but before the insurance folks show up. I sat on my porch, sipping coffee, watching my chickens peck around like they were gossiping about yesterday's circus. I replayed Karen falling in the straw, the officers barely holding in their laughter. But you know, folks like her, they never retreat. They reload. And just as I thought it, I heard the rattle of her golf cart down the road. I'd swear that battery was toast yesterday, but here she came, trailed by 3 cars and a little squad in matching HOA enforcement polos, standing shoulder to shoulder like they'd just left a failed mall kiosk. Karen, megaphone in hand, announced she was here for a community compliance audit, claiming my chickens were creating cross-boundary disruptions. I nearly choked on my coffee. Her officers had clipboards full of internet printouts. They tried handing me an HOA notice of agricultural infraction, which I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I reminded them the sheriff already told her she had zero jurisdiction, but Karen claimed she discovered a legal loophole, mispronouncing half her words. Before I could answer, Elvis strutted over, crowed right on cue, and the clipboard guy dropped all his papers in the dirt like parade confetti. Karen's squad started snapping chicken photos through the fence like a flock of wildlife paparazzi while the birds stared back, bored as could be. I asked why they didn't deal with their own subdivision's problems, but Karen snapped that my chickens are a direct threat to HOA order. She promised to escalate to a full board action if I didn't cooperate. I barely had time to laugh before a pickup rumbled down the road. Turns out it was the county AG inspector, pure coincidence, scheduled for a routine check. Couldn't have been better timing. Karen pounced, trying to recruit him to her side. But after he heard the story, he gently explained that farms like mine are exempt, and her presence here bordered on harassment. Karen wouldn't let up, vowing to petition the county to redraw boundaries. She stormed back to her golf cart, which once again wouldn't start, then stomped off, trailing her dignity and binder behind her, while the rest of her team awkwardly carried her stuff. I stood there, shaking my head as Elvis crowed in triumph, knowing this was just round 2. I admit, a tiny part of me found the drama entertaining. The next day, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a shovel. Even the cows huddled near the fence, goats bleating at shadows. By afternoon, Karen showed up dragging a massive rolling bulletin board, bungeed with diagrams, charts, and HOA Emergency Action Plan version 4.1, followed by 2 neighbors carting boxes of binders. She gave a wild speech about chicken migration, territory expansion, and accused Elvis of threatening HOA children by standing on a fence post. I almost wanted to clap. Then she dropped her bomb. She called animal control, claiming my birds posed a danger to the community ecosystem. For a moment, I got nervous because, well, animal control has real authority. Soon, a county animal welfare van rolled up. The officer was all business, asking Karen for details. She delivered the most dramatic, nonsense-laced report. Emotional intimidation, noise pollution, hostile posturing, until the officer's eyes glazed over. When he turned to me, I laid out the truth. Healthy, legal animals, and one neighbor who just wanted control. He checked my coops, held a hen, took notes, and when he was done, declared my animals perfectly healthy, properly contained, legally managed, zero danger. He even warned Karen about filing false reports. She stormed off, whispering about war. And that was just the start. Karen kept escalating. One day it was a sound inspection squad with leaf blowers and noise meters duct taped to broom handles, reading emotional noise pollution from my chickens. Another day it was a marching HOA parade, complete with banners and a makeshift tribunal where she called witnesses traumatized by my rooster crowing or the sight of eggs at the farmer's market. My personal favorite, the time she showed up in a hazmat suit, claiming to be running a Category 3 environmental hazard response, spraying lemon-scented fog around the property. Even her volunteers looked embarrassed. Each time, she dragged more people in, set up portable tables, waved fake legal documents, and threatened full-spectrum complaints, with everyone from the county board to the governor, depending on how strongly she felt after lunch. But every time, the real authorities shut her down. The sheriff's deputy showed up more than once, calmly reminding her that property rights, county zoning, and farm exemptions trumped anything her HOA could dream up. Her antics only got wilder. A DIY, airborne interference detection tower, complete with drones, which my goats promptly destroyed after they crashed, accusations of unauthorized poultry air traffic, and a staged emergency field office with a generator sputtering in the dust. Each time, it ended the same. Karen humiliated her troops slinking away, Elvis crowing at their retreat. But the grand finale came when Karen rolled up with a fleet of rental trucks, cherry pickers, and a whole HOA improvement task force, waving blueprints and ordering contractors to install a new community protection zone fence right across my land. That's when the deputy pulled up and, without any pleasantries, laid down the law, pointing out every single right she'd trampled, every code she'd violated. The contractors bolted, her task force peeled away, and Karen finally realized she was staring down real legal consequences. She stammered, tried to play the misunderstood leader, but the deputy cut her off, firm as a sledgehammer, saying she'd crossed into felony-level trespass if she didn't back down right now. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. She climbed into her SUV and sped away, tire marks in the gravel, and the only sound left was the wind, Elvis, and the steady heartbeat of a farm that had outlasted one neighbor's endless crusade. As I leaned on the fence, the morning sun warming my boots, I couldn't help but feel a little proud. The chickens had won. The farm stayed free. And somewhere, Karen was probably plotting her next move, but that battle, my friends, was already decided. So let me ask you, where's the line between protecting your peace and letting someone else's nonsense take over your life? What would you have done if your neighbor brought a marching band and a fake tribunal to your door just because of some chickens? Drop your story, your thoughts about justice, or even your wildest HOA running down below. I promise the rest of us could use a laugh. And if you've ever had to stand your ground, you know, sometimes you don't just fight for your land, you fight for your sanity.